It's the BYU Cougars. It's the Stanford Cardinal. It's Bear Bachmeier's next test, and this is your game day preview as the Cougars get ready for a Stanford showdown.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into a special edition of Locked On Cougars. I'm Jake Hatch, executive producer of the KSL Sports Zone in Salt Lake City, Utah, and a 14-year credentialed media member at BYU. I am your resident expert and insider, your host here on this podcast. And once again, thank you for tuning in to get you ready. It's game day, everybody. BYU under the lights tonight, taking on the Stanford Cardinal. And this is my live stream previewing the matchup, and very much looking forward to this. It's a big opportunity for BYU. Obviously, like to go 2-0 on the season. Stanford comes in after a rare week 1 off. They played week 0, but then had last week off. So they've had 2 weeks of preparation to get ready for BYU. The Cougars, conversely, as we all know, smashed Portland State last week, 69-0. And looking forward to seeing how BYU handles the success that they had last week, because I don't think anybody within the sound of my voice watching this or listening to it would disagree that Portland State was completely overmatched. They were the wet paper bag is the expression I used when it comes to that matchup for BYU. And quite frankly, in the second half, had BYU decided to keep the pedal down to the metal, could they have gone to 100? They could have named their score against Portland State. And they took some mercy, obviously, running the football. But when I think it was pointed out to me earlier this week, and a couple of you have pointed it out as well, BYU had, I think, 7 first-time touchdown scorers last week. Guys like Charlie Miska, who scored the final touchdown of the game. They went really, really deep when it comes to their bench. That rotation will not be nearly as heavy tonight. Stanford, while they may be the dregs of the ACC, at least projected-wise coming into this season, they are a Power 4 program, and that makes it the next test for BYU. Bear Bachmeier expected to be back under center for BYU tonight, and looking forward to seeing how Christopher, I'm going to throw this up right as we go into this. Can't wait to see our very own centaur take the field again. If you missed the comments from Bruce Barnum last week, he called him a centaur, GD centaur was the term he used. So he said, looking at Bear Bachmeier. And that's the thing about Bear Bachmeier in particular, is that a lot of people look at him. He's 6'2". He's listed at 225 pounds. And the thing about it is he carries that weight in his legs. Any of you who have looked at him up close, and I've had a chance being out of there at practice in Provo to see him, he has got got these thick legs, like tree trunks, I guess is the best way to describe it. And that's going to serve him well because he has shown an adept ability to run the football. I fully expect, barring something completely unforeseen, to see him play well past halftime tonight, if not the entirety of this game against Stanford. And the other side of it is he's got to be excited. Stanford was the program he committed to out of high school. He picked them over literally everybody across the country, including BYU. He had offers from sea to shining sea, and he picked the Stanford Cardinal. He went there, had the whole thing with Troy Taylor go down, and we had Hank, his older brother, on with DJ and PK on the KSL Sports Zone in advance of last week's game against Portland State. And the question was asked about why he would have transferred. And because Hank, remember, he played at Boise State, but then ultimately transferred him twice and played at Louisiana Tech and at Wake Forest. And Hank's point about Bear was, think about this. He committed to Troy Taylor, would have had to play under Frank Reich this season, because as we understand, Frank Reich is going to be a 1-year interim coach for Stanford with Andrew Luck trying to get things back off the ground. And then when they hire a new coach, inside of essentially a year, 12 months time, Bear would have been with 3 different head coaches at Stanford, and that felt like an untenable situation for him. So now he is the starting quarterback at BYU going up against his former team. Is that an advantage? Is it a disadvantage? I think that Frank Reich nailed it when he said that I don't think it's much of an advantage or disadvantage, even with Tiger in particular also transferring, because as he mentioned, they left during spring ball and Stanford had the rest of spring camp, obviously workouts throughout the summer, and then training camp of their own to change things, tweak things. So I think that there's some familiarity between these two teams, just with the players involved, in particular the Bachmeier brothers. But I really look at it, and I think that the thing about Bear is he is going to be excited to go up against his former team, but he's also going to want to prove a point to them. He's going to want to go out there and show them what they missed out on with him leaving that program. So I'm looking forward to seeing his second test tonight. That's what I'm calling it. Kalani Sitake, I like to call them statements last year. If you recall, if you watched the cut when they did those after every game last year, he called it it's our fifth statement. It's our sixth statement. Well, this is the second statement or test in my book for BYU, and it's a much improved or a much more difficult test tonight, because even without what Stanford appears to have on paper, this is still a Stanford squad that's got some dudes on the offensive and defensive line. If you go back, and I rewatched that Hawaii game earlier this week, is they've got some ability to move the line of scrimmage, especially on the offensive line. Bryce Ford, I think, is their best offensive weapon at running back. Ben Branson was awful, even rewatching that game. There was no defending his performance against Hawaii at quarterback, but Bryce Ford, he's a nice running back. And I think that Stanford's whole philosophy coming into this game is they're going to try and run the ball down BYU's throat. They want to control the line of scrimmage. They want to control the time of possession, limit the overall number of possessions that BYU gets in this matchup. In theory, that if they keep it tight, keep it low scoring, they may be able to squeak out a win if they can get some good fortune going their way. They will obviously have to win the turnover battle, and that's something that if anybody involved with BYU, if you ask for keys to the game, play turnover-free football. That's the big part about this is you look at it, and it's a big, big test to see if BYU can leap up now from their FCS game, the weakest opponent on the schedule, and then go up against a team that, Stanford probably is bottom tier of the ACC, but they are a Power 4 program. They've got some dudes. I think the defensive line in particular is that Clay Patterson had 2 sacks last week. Now, he negated one with just a decision to do the Aura farming dance. If you watched that Hawaii game, him doing that dance got him a 15-yard penalty and gave Hawaii new life. But I look forward to it. It's a whiteout for LaVell Edwards Stadium tonight. That does not mean that BYU's players are wearing white. They're actually wearing royal tonight under the lights. So I've had that question thrown at me. I'm expecting a sellout once again. I think it was the biggest crowd since the TCU game in 2009 last week, 64,000 plus. That's standing room only capacity for LaVell Edwards Stadium. And to your point, Loomis, you threw this up here. Let's fill LES again tonight. Absolutely. They absolutely do need to fill the stadium tonight. Christopher, good question. Who should be better, Stanford or ECU? That is a great question from Christopher, because I have watched, and you trust me, any who are everydayers, you saw me and probably heard me during the preseason say I thought that East Carolina might be the most difficult opponent that BYU may face in the first 6 games of their season. Well, ECU, as often is the case, came out of the gates a little bit slow against NC State. I would still say they're probably 6s. I'm not 100% convinced that Stanford or ECU is the better team at this point, but there are going to be tests. And the one thing about ECU, that'll be 2 weeks from now, because BYU will have a bye week next week of their own, is you have to go across the country. It'll be Bear Bachmeier's first career road start. He gets to start 2 games at home under the lights at LaVell Edwards Stadium. And that's a big boon for him. To have that extra time to prepare, not having to travel on the road, feel the comforts of home, sleep in his own bed, all those different cliches when it comes to him as a quarterback. So I look at it as an opportunity against a team like Stanford tonight to get 2-0 and then spend the next 2 weeks getting ready for your first road test. So I'm looking forward to this. David Webb, interesting. Look at this. I think he threw this up here earlier. There we go. David Webb. Jake, Google Viking Berserker, spirit warriors who transformed into bears. Fits him better than a centaur. Speaking of Bear Bachmeier. Maybe so. Maybe that's what we should be going with when it comes. Berserker 47 is what David's calling him. Dude's a beast warrior. Bear is a well put together athlete. There's zero doubt about that. And I'm looking forward to seeing how BYU does with him under center once again for his second start in a Cougar uniform. All right. Coming up next, a couple of notes on personnel, a couple of things of what I expect tonight and my keys to the game. I'll also reiterate my game prediction. Those of you who saw yesterday's podcast already know what I predicted for tonight. Have I moved off that? Well, I'm just going to say this. No, I haven't, but we'll talk about that next as we continue on this game day preview edition of Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Now, Game Time is here to get you out to the game. If any of you are thinking about getting down to LaVell Edwards Stadium tonight, well, Game Time can get you the hookup on that. The best part is you download the Game Time app, and in the app, you can look and see what tickets are available. You can see exactly what your view will be from your seat. And my favorite feature of Game Time, of all the different features they have, is you know exactly what you're paying right up front. There's no extra fees being tacked on at the end. It's not going to be like a gotcha moment when you go to check out. You see the fee when you look in the app, and it's right there for you guys, and that's what you're paying. The best part is right now you can download the Game Time app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege and get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But once again, use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Get to the game tonight if you're looking at it, or any other game you're looking at, with our friends over at Game Time. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars, in this case, your first view and or listen of the day. Appreciate all of you for being with us. If you want the inside scoop, what I'm hearing in advance of tonight's game, just another plug for you guys to join the Locked On Cougars Insider Group. Link is in the show notes below, or reach out to us, and I'll see if I can throw up the link in this. I'll see if I can figure that out as we go live here. But you get a 14-day free trial, just $5 a month to be a part of the Insiders Group and get the inside intel I've got for you guys going into tonight's matchup against the Stanford Cardinal. And that's where I want to leap back into this, is looking at this matchup for BYU. It is an opportunity, once again, to strike fear into the heart of other teams in the ACC in the Big 12. It's been a pretty good day today. If you missed it, we saw Iowa State beat Iowa in the Cy-Hawk Trophy game. We saw an absolute shootout and overtime game with Baylor and SMU. So it's been a relatively good day as compared to last week, when it felt like the Big 12 was struggling a little bit for BYU. And that's the interesting part about this, is it's a major opportunity to watch BYU get a win that represents more than just a win for them on the score sheet. It's a Power 5 versus Power 4 versus Power 4 win, and strikes another claim of credibility for the Big 12. Kalani Sitake didn't want to touch that topic at all when asked about it earlier this week, but to Jay Hill's credit, he's been totally open about it. He's like, yeah, it's absolutely something that's big for the Big 12. It's a major opportunity to go out there and put some respect on the Big 12's name, in addition to respect for BYU. I appreciate that part of it. All right, so Braden, good point here. Vampire Cougs are going to be fun to watch tonight. Here's the thing. There's something about BYU under the lights these late nights at LaVell Edwards Stadium. BYU is a really, really difficult team at home, especially after 8 p.m. Now, Stanford, the body clock game won't be affecting them much, because on the West Coast, obviously, it's an hour earlier for them. So it's a 7:15 body clock game. But they probably, speaking of the Stanford players, when's the last time they've seen an opponent that has this many fans will be packing the stands at LaVell Edwards Stadium? It's going back to last season, at least. Stanford's fan base is not known for traveling heavily like BYU's is, but it's a big opportunity for the Cougars. Connor asked this: what do you think the key is to shutting Stanford down tonight? It's controlling the line of scrimmage and making sure that Bryce Ford, because Lord of Chaos throws us up here, Stanford running back is good, and he later adds this: he's really good. Yeah, the thing is about this is Bryce Ford, their running back, he's talented. And if he gets a sliver of daylight with that offensive line against BYU's D-line, it can be danger time for BYU. You've got to win the line of scrimmage. You have to control it. Now, that goes to Keanu Tanuvasa on the defensive line alongside John Tamoya-Peau. I'm expecting Vil Puha, as well as, who am I thinking of? Bodie Schoonover to be the defensive ends for BYU in this game, but also you'll see guys like Hunter Clegg factoring in here. The defensive line's got to be able to go toe-to-toe with Stanford's O-line and hold their own. I think they'll be capable of that. Conversely, BYU's offensive line, they've got to deal with a pretty strong Stanford defensive line. I'm not saying it's an elite defensive line, but it's a strong defensive line, and that is a big opportunity for BYU and a big key to them winning this game. Take care of the football. Can't have interceptions. And yes, Bear did throw some last week against Portland State that, had it been a team like a Stanford or a better opponent overall, probably do get picked off. And in some small way, this sounds probably awful to say, I'd like to see him have a mistake of that magnitude. Maybe not a pick six, but an interception, and see how he responds. I think this is the type of opponent you can have an interception against and still recover from. I'm not saying I want to see it, but I'm just saying if that's going to happen, this is the type of opponent to do it against, because you should be able to recover that. I expect that we'll see guys like LJ Martin and Sione Moa ready to rock and roll, and I'm excited. I love being out at LaVell Edwards Stadium. Any of you who are watching this podcast, I assume you think the exact same thing. It's a great environment. It's a great atmosphere. Quint Whipple says, I believe the D-line will take care of the game. It's got to. You got to make Ben Branson's life absolutely miserable. He was not very good against Hawaii, but you got to make him look less than average. I would say he's average, maybe even less than that against Hawaii. And if Hawaii can harass him and get after him like they did out there in the islands, BYU's defensive line should be able to do that, because I would much prefer to, and it's nothing against Hawaii. I love my Rainbow Warriors. Any of you know that my wardrobe of different sports teams has got a lot of Rainbow Warrior gear in it. But I love some Hawaii, but BYU's defensive line is much better than Hawaii's. And I'm interested to see how BYU's D-line does in this. I would expect the BYU will be hawking the ball, trying to get interceptions, fumbles, and the like. Who knows? Maybe John Talmoe-Payal blocks another field goal with his face mask, and Jack Kelly scoops and scores. That's the fun part about that. I love the opportunity that BYU has tonight under the lights at LaVell Edwards Stadium. And let's go back to Lumos real quick, because he has a good point here. LAS is a special place, man. No words can describe. You have to be there to understand it. I agree. It is a big environment. It's like a vibes type thing. You have to get to LaVell Edwards Stadium just to experience what it's all about. It's a unique thing. Will Farron for 57 yards. You want to see the record tonight, Frank? All right. Frank Foltz says he wants to see the record. It's 56. He tied it last week. I'd like to see BYU just score a bunch of touchdowns, but if he's going to break the record, might as well do it. Yeah. Don't break it by 1 yard, Frank. Let's just get it to 60. And let's just make it a flat 60. I think it'd be fun. Obviously, that depends on the game. SWB 89. I don't think this game is even close. And that's the thing about this is I threw it out on yesterday's podcast right at the end. If you stuck with us as an everydayer, I said my prediction was BYU 30, Stanford 13. I think Stanford's going to score in this game, but I expect BYU gets out of the chute pretty good. And I think they'll handle this game just fine. That's what I'm expecting. But once again, take care of the football, control the line of scrimmage. Time of possession for BYU is an interesting thing. They're not a team that has to have time of possession, because Aaron Roderick's offense has proven very capable. Even when they don't have 30 minutes of time of possession, they can still score points in bunches. And that's going to be the interesting part, to see how they handle that side of it. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how it all plays out. But I've got 30-13 as my prediction tonight. In terms of personnel tonight, I think we've heard it from the coaches this week. Waylon Lapuaho, Tei Nakua, Reggie Frischknecht, they're all questionable at the very best. I don't expect to see Waylon play. I don't expect to see Tei Nakua play. Reggie Frischknecht will be an interesting one. We'll see if he gets through warm-ups. It's a game-time decision type deal, but get your white out. Get your white T-shirts out, I should say. Lumos says this. Got to find my white BYU T-shirt. LOL. I think many of you do. So it is a white out in the stands with the team wearing royal under the lights, and very much looking forward to this one. Should be a big opportunity, but I got 30-13, and a big thank you to all of you guys for tuning in tonight. I'm going to scroll and see if I have any other comments there. Parley, what's up, dude? Let's go. Let's get a win, baby. Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a fun one tonight as we see the Cougars get the job done. Oh, okay. Good points. Good point here. Ryan Madsen, Jay Hill wants another shutout. I absolutely agree. He wants another shutout. I just don't think they get it tonight. And then also Lord of Chaos, any info on Kirkland? He's getting closer. I don't think he plays tonight. That's another personnel note. Justin Kirkland should be available, I would hope, by the time they get to Colorado at the end of the month, but we'll see what happens. And see, Tom, that's a good one right here. Stanford's defensive goal number one will be Rattle Bear, but he is too well protected. Also, with both teams running, there's less time to score. There will be less possessions. There's no doubt about that. So we'll see what happens. Ooh, this is a bold prediction. Craig Emmett, LJ Martin, 200 yards tonight. He had 100 and whatever on 8 carries last week, so he easily could have done it last week. Maybe we'll see what happens. See how it all plays out. All right, so there you go. That's what I got for you guys. Thank you for tuning into this game day preview. But as always, thank you for all y'all support. We'll be back postcast tonight. I got radio responsibilities, as many of you know, with post game. But I will get home, get situated, and hopefully have a postcast for you guys sometime in the wee hours of Sunday morning. I know a number of you aren't able to sleep after games like this, and I struggle with it as well. So that's why I do a postcast edition of the show. We'll do that for you guys later on or early tomorrow morning. But enjoy the game tonight, everybody. 30-13, my prediction. We'll see how it all goes down at LaVell Edwards Stadium tonight. And thank you once again for tuning in to Locked On Cougars and making it your very first listen of the day and being an everydayer right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.